really delighted to welcome you to this symposium on Percier, Antiquity, and Empire, which, as is our practice, inaugurates this splendid exhibition that is just opened down the street. I hope some of you have seen it. I hope many more of you will have the chance to see it and study it in the coming months. It's always a pleasure to open a new exhibition, but it's really a special pleasure in this occasion to do so almost in tandem with another exhibition across the park at the Frick on the virtuoso gilder Pierre which is curated by the Frick curator and BGC visiting faculty member Charlotte Vigneault. I think it's actually a remarkable conjunction that everyone who's seen the two exhibitions has remarked on, that we get the snapshot, respectively, on kind of supreme accomplishments of design and craftsmanship in the decades just before the Revolution, and then our show on Percier that really translates that and looks at the first few decades right after the French Revolution. I think you couldn't actually ask for a better sort of serendipitous pairing that actually magnifies the impact of each exhibition. And I just learned from Ian Wardropper that through another remarkable coincidence, those two exhibitions will travel in virtually in the same sequence and will be on view at the same time together in Paris later in the spring. So you'll have many chances to compare them. I just wanted to also set this exhibition project, and in some ways the symposium, in an institutional context, because I think everyone in this room knows that for a while the Bargaiate Center has sort of cornered the market on the architect and designer project. You know, to the extent that it almost became a cliche, all of our catalogs for a while were being called, someone architect and designer. Started with E.W. Godwin, architect and designer, Thomas Jekyll, architect and designer. Expanded a little bit earlier into the 19th century with Thomas Hope, Regency designer, Athenian Stewart, into the late 18th century period, even extended into Central Europe with Joseph Frank, and Scandinavia with Bruno Madsen, architect and designer. And I see many of the people responsible for those projects actually in the room today. But to my knowledge, we've never expanded this paradigm into France. We've never done a French architect and designer. So the current project that we're here to celebrate today, I do think is a departure for the Bargaiate Center in very positive ways, but it also has some kinship with a project that I hope you all remember, the magnificent one on William Kent designing Georgian Britain. Obviously two very different artistic and architectural personalities, but I think they have a certain kinship in the desire to focus very intently on a person, right, Charles Percier, William Kent, but also to see how that person's imaginative and design sensibility really established a new visual language and vocabulary, really for an entire regime and an entire period. So it's that broader context that I think we'll hear about today. The order of the day, we have 5 presenters. Each will speak for about 20 or 25 minutes. We're going to have a coffee break, but we'll ask you to save any questions that you have for each individual speaker, and we will invite them at the end to come up for a round table. So take notes, write them on your phone, anything that will help you remember the questions that you'd like to ask, and we hope we can get a dialogue going at the end. But now it's my great pleasure to introduce you to our first speaker, Jean-Philippe Garrigue, who is also, as you all know, curator of the exhibition that's brought us here. He's going to give the first talk of the afternoon, and then absolutely after that he will introduce the remaining speakers. Now, appropriately for the topic of today, Dr. Garrigue is credentialed both as an architect and as a historian, holding the graduate diploma in the School of Architecture of Toulouse, as well as master's and doctoral degrees, and also the habilitation, that wonderful European term that's untranslatable, the habilitation to supervise doctoral students, all from the University of Paris, where he studied with Françoise Chauet and Jean-Louis Cohen. Since 2013, he's been professor of art history at the University of Paris, Sorbonne, where he supervises the course on the history of architecture, having taught previously in Belleville and in Normandy. Now, besides his work on Percier, Professor Garrigue is preparing an exhibition at the Petit Palais on the visionary architect Jean-Jacques Lequeux, as well as a study of 19th century architectural photography in Rome. His past publications include books on the role of Italian models in French architectural treatises, on the Chapelle Expiatoire, a biography of Percier and his partner Fontaine, as Napoleon's architects. And then also on agritecture, a word I did not know, but he uses this to refer to agricultural buildings from 1789 to 1950. I will not attempt to list even one of his many articles or essays in edited volumes, but to turn over the podium to Jean-Philippe Garry, who will take things from here. Welcome.